Hello, guys. I know it's been a while. This social media stuff is a lot. Recently, I done got involved in this new avatar world. I know it's out of Japan or China, one of those Asian foreign countries. It's called Zepeto. And me and my sister, I love my older sister because she is a lot like me, surprisingly, over the years. Where I had her join Zepeto, and so we be on there shopping and dressing up. We got our children to sign on, so when we do dances and little pictures and selfies, we can tag our kids in it. So it's kind of fun. It's a cool little avatar world. I think that's the way the future is going. I actually heard on the news that Avatar is one or two or is about to do a concert, or AI, which is an artificial intelligence type of personality, doing a concert. And I even think there's a rapper out there. So this is the future. I know it's so weird and strange, but it's the future. So anyway, aside from that, YouTube is like one of my least things I post on. I just kind of predominantly stick with the IGs and the Facebooks, and I have the Snap, I have Tumblr, I have Twitter, I have all of them, but it's you gravitate to what you just kind of gravitate to. So anyway, I just got back from London. I went Labor Day weekend. I went for a weekend. I bought a ticket, emotional splurge, to go see Teyana Taylor in London, September 4th. And when I bought the ticket, I had always been wanting to go to London. I even got a little side hustle as art buying last year in the summer. And one of the pictures I bought said London's calling. In addition to that, I have sister locks that I actually do. I'm in a sister lock group, and one of the mothers in the group asked if anyone in the group knew of anybody from either the UK that could retie her daughter's hair. She was going off to college, and that's what we do to our locks. It's considered a retie, not a retwist. So anyway, a bunch of UK sister lock beauticians popped up, and it just further piqued my interest to go to London. So anyway, I went to London. Teyana was touring in Vegas, I think Long Beach, I think Arizona, and some other places that I probably have been already. And I just wanted to go somewhere I'd never been before. So London was on the to-do list. Teyana was on the to-do list. So why freaking not? So that's what I did. However, there was some glitches along the road. And generally, when I post my travel, my trips, I never post the major negative things that went on. But I do share sometimes some of the things I do. But it's just so much that you can't capture in pictures or on social media, So to have a conversation about it is one thing, and I have with a lot of my customers. But I did want to go on and share with a lot of people who I don't see regularly, and that are not my customers or clients, some of the glitches that happened in this particular trip. This is my first trip ever out of the country completely alone. I went to Italy in my early 20s with a group of older women, so I wasn't alone. And then again in 2019, I went to Egypt and Africa with another group of women older than me as well, so I wasn't alone, and completely able to solely rely on them and their structure and their direction because they were older than me. So of course they took me under their wings, both groups, both trips, me being always the baby. So this time I was completely by myself, and I was confident. I just got back from Alaska on a 10-day cruise back at the end of June, and that was big for me because I had never been on a vacation that long, and that was like a vacation. When I literally tell you I ate and slept. Sometime I would not get dressed, throw on something comfortable, didn't comb my hair. If I didn't want to wash my ass or brush my teeth, I could do that because I was absolutely alone with no one's schedule or not having to compromise. I love vacations. I love girl trips. I love family trips, but you, to a certain extent, have to compromise. You want the vibe of the whole trip and the groups or the companionship to be cool, no tension or animosity. So sometimes you end up compromising. When you're alone, you can do absolutely whatever you want to be completely selfish. And so that was my Alaska trip. as well as my London trip. The difference was Alaska was 10 days in the water, and that was challenging for me on so many levels. Also, I chose not to get an internet service while I was in the water because I knew when I got on port that I could sign into the Wi-Fi. So the 3 days to get to Alaska from California was long to be without service, but I did it. And then I think it was like a day or two on the way back in. Wasn't as bad, but then 3 long days going into Alaska from California was really, really a struggle, but I did it. And it forced me to enjoy me, think about some things and process some things, observe people on the cruise, like-minded as myself. I thought I was going to be like the only black girl on the cruise, and it was tons of black people, which further made me feel more confident and comfortable. Like, we do this too, you know. Yes, the Bahamas and Mexico and Jamaica and New York, you know, all of New Orleans, you know, all of these fun places, typical Miami, Hawaii, that people generally want to go to all the time, are beautiful. I've been to a lot of them, and I just don't want to double back. I think it's so many places in the world that I want to see, that there is to see, that I just don't want to waste my time doubling back. And there has been nowhere that I really want to double back to. Now, there are a couple countries or continents that are pretty large, so I may choose to visit another part. Point and take example, Africa. I would love to see the safari side of Africa, which is not the side I visited. I visited West Africa, so that was more on the educational side, where the slave dungeons were and things of that nature. And then I would love to see South Africa, maybe Johannesburg. I hear that part of Africa is very different, as well as the safari side is very different. So, and I know Africa is huge. Just like I found out Alaska is very huge. It's actually divided into two sides. There's a Canadian side and a Russian side. I didn't know that. And so, of course, I visited the Canadian side because we stopped back in Victoria, Canada, on the way back from Alaska, but I had no idea that there was a Russian side. So while I was there, I found that out on the phone with my bank about an insufficient fund fee while I'm in the water. I need my bank, my money to be flowing, just in case. But yeah, and he had asked me what part of what side was I visiting, and I said I believe it was Canada. But when I got back home, it piqued my interest, and I did look at the map to see where Russia was. I didn't realize Russia was so close to Canada, because Canada is pretty close to California, and it actually is. It's water in between Alaska, Canada, and Russia, but it's not as far across the world as I thought. So, going back to the London trip, and I'm gonna try to wrap it up because I'm already at 8 minutes. A weekend, I flew in on, bought my ticket because after I purchased the concert ticket, it informed us, because of COVID, that they would be sending out electronic tickets, and the ticket would come closer to the concert day, just in case there would be cancellations. I got my ticket emailed to me September 1st. The concert was September 4th. Now, we're going to rewind back to me buying the ticket. I knew I had an Alaska trip coming up, and I wasn't going to take care of my airfare till I got back from Alaska, saved up a little bit more money, made my little coins, and that was that. When I got ready to buy my London trip, I looked at the airfare, not realizing that gases made the airfare go up. So my ticket was higher than I really thought I was going to be paying. But at the same time, I have never really bought an individual trip out the country in a long time. I think the last time in Italy, it was $500 or $600, and that was early 2000s. And then my trip into the Egypt and Africa, it was a package, so I didn't know what the airfare was individually. But as I look overall at it, $500 or $600 back in early 2000, about $1,000 or a little over $1,000 is probably kind of average going out the country. So end of the day, I think I put like $1,550 for my trip into London, less than a week before I was leaving. So I knew I was going to be paying a lot. I was going to pay double that, close to $1,000. So, you know, The airline was Aer Lingus, and I got Spirit vibes, which I've only flew Spirit once, and it wasn't the actual flight wasn't bad. It was just, I think, the unexpected fees of baggage was really kind of what rubbed me wrong with Spirit. But since then, I've heard that Spirit then done some people wrong, as well as the unexpected baggage. So Aer Lingus, and I can't even really blame it on Aer Lingus, only because I have an open mind, and who knows what really happened. But there was delays on the way in, and there was delays on the way out, and on the way coming back, I ended up missing my San Francisco flight, and because of the delays, and Aer Lingus being an international flight, they didn't have any more flights going out of San Francisco that day. And that kind of was annoying, because I'm like, I guess, forgetting that I'm not in the U.S., and I'm like, no more of that day with this one flight out a day. That's crazy. But I'm in Dublin, Ireland, trying to connect to San Francisco. So no, there ain't a whole bunch of people going to San Francisco. Obviously, you ain't in the U.S. Okay, bring it back in. So they put me up in a hotel. About 20 of us missed our flight. Put us up in a hotel, gave us a lunch voucher, because by this time it's lunchtime, and gave us a dinner voucher. And we stayed a free night in Dublin. I got an extra stamp on my passport, so it worked out. I didn't have anywhere to be, so it was just kind of frustrating, because at some point you'd be ready to go home. But to go back into London, when I got to London, it took a whole day to get there, because I got a cheap flight, clearly, and so I had a bunch of layovers coming in. So I left Saturday morning, and I didn't get to London till Sunday. So I was kind of jet lagged and tired and ready to go see Teyana, which I got in that Sunday morning, and Teyana concert was at 7. So I wanted to kind of sightsee a little bit, go home, change, and then go back out. By the time I got to my room, it was time to just get dressed and go see Teyana. Ran into a long ass line, but it was tons of black people on that line. It was just the most beautiful thing I could see. I accidentally cut some people in line. I really didn't do it intentionally, but at the same time, I felt like I walked through a long line. I was like, oh, my feet say stop right here and wiggle on in, and that's what my body did. So anyway, I'm in this big old place by myself, so I need to make sure, I ain't causing no friction, because, I'm older, and Teyana in her 30s, and that was kind of like the crowd. So I'm like, did I cut y'all? And it was like, yeah, but it's okay. So I think when I opened up my mouth, they heard my accent, and they might have seen a little salt and pepper, and they was like, okay, she cute, she old, she being polite, let's go on and let her, wiggle on in. And they asked me, where are you from? And I told them where I was from, California. And it was like, how is it out there? I knew she was from California. I could tell by her voice. And I'm like, oh my God, I have an accent for a change, right? So it was kind of cute to hear them. I hate that I didn't get a picture with them, but I felt like I was just an old lady, and they was young, and they probably didn't want to take a picture with me, but I should have took a picture, because that was the most black women I seen. Other than that, I seen tons and tons and tons of black men all through London. And I spoke to one of my guy friends when I got back, or maybe while I was there, and I'm just like, it's black men everywhere. I see more black men than women. And he said that's because police ain't killing black men out there, and they're not incarcerating them out there. And I'm like, really? And I thought about it briefly, and I'm like, you might be right. He said, yeah, I don't even think they carry guns. I think they carry billy clubs. Now, I don't know if he's all the way accurate on that. He might be watching too much TV, but he may have some facts in that. I know for a fact, and I don't even have to Google statistics, that police do kill black men in the U.S., and it's definitely a high incarceration rate. So maybe that's where our black men are out in the U.S. But it was tons of them in London, so that was super impressive. They didn't wear a lot of Nike or Jordan. A lot of the tennis shoes I seen didn't have any flashy name brands on them, so I figured like they probably was designer, because I was seeing a lot of designer stuff, Gucci and Versace. So I guess they have a little designer stuff out there, which makes sense. Jordans and Nikes is a U.S. brand, so I get it. I did catch the train 2 hours in the wrong direction. Some men sent me in the wrong direction when I got off the plane in the airport. I chose to take a train in because I got in that morning and I couldn't check in till 3, so I had time to kill. So I chose the train. Plus, I wanted to sightsee. Dope graffiti on all of the underground tunnels. I couldn't take pictures of how dope the graffiti was because my battery was low, because once I got to Dublin and then out of the airport, I am now in a whole nother country and forgot that I did not have the adapter to charge my phone died, had a small meltdown, no tears came out of my eyes, but for a minute I felt very uncomfortable in a country without a phone. And then I had to realize, you know where you're going, you're gonna be okay. You got money in your pocket and you know the name of your hotel. Worst case scenario, you have to get in the Uber, catch a taxi. You're going to be okay. Or just get your funky ass back on that train and ride 2 more hours. You got time. Worst case scenario, you might be late for Teyana. Which, not to mention, she didn't start till 2 hours later. By now, my feet are hurting from waiting in the line and then waiting on her. Had no intentions of waiting to see the whole concert of her because I'm trying to get out there before it got chaotic anyway, because I still now have to map out how the fuck I'm getting back to my hotel, because I can't just go get in a car like I would have in the States. They drive on the wrong side of the street, so I damn sure wasn't finna rent a car. I don't even know if they would rent a car to me without the proper driver's license. I don't know. So, needless to say, yeah, battery died, couldn't take proper pictures, had a little meltdown. When I did get to the major train station to try and go back in the right direction, found a little Stop Smart where they sell the adapters, and they sell them all throughout the stores and even like in the little souvenir shops. So I guess it's actually very common. People leave the adapters behind or don't buy them before they get to where they need to be. And I think there's different ones in the U.S. So sometimes I think, that I'm thinking about it, it might just make sense to buy it in that country, because I think Africa has a different one. Or there might be a multi-purpose kind of one. Anyway, I bought the wrong one. They gave me one for a fucking Apple iPhone. I don't have a fucking iPhone. They probably just assumed I did and I wasn't thinking. Wouldn't give me my money back for that. That one cost more than the Android one. So then I ended up having to go back and get an Android one. So now I have 2. So now you chewing into my taxi money at this point. Needless to say, I do have an Apple one if somebody ever need one. But other than that, I went to London for a weekend. On my way back, delayed planes. Ended up spending the night in Ireland. So I ended up getting stamped into Ireland. And they were like, how long were you in London? And I'm like, 2 days. They looking at me like, really? 2 days? I'm like, yeah, I came to see a concert. And they was like, yeah, okay. So I told the client that the other day, they was like, yeah, you on the watch list. They probably thought you slid in, dropped a bomb somewhere, came on back out. I'm like, Lord Jesus, I'm on, watch me, because I probably will pop up in another country for 2 days. I'm going to go on that note because I'm almost at 20 minutes. But what I will say is that because I've traveled far, I've done 7 to 10 day cruises. I've been in Egypt, in Africa for like 3 weeks. I don't think I have to do long trips or vacations anymore. I feel like 5 to 7 days is like the max for me, and it's not even a preference at this point. 2 to 5 days is enough. Get in, see what you need to see, and get on back out. Hotels can at some point just become redundant, kind of cold and uncomfortable. I'd rather be in my own bed, going in and out my own refrigerator, and not having to eat out every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinners. Could just get played out. So I'm gonna go on that note. Taxis were preferred over Ubers. Ubers cost more than taxis, but you have to be aggressive with the taxis. They kept trash on the street. We're bougie, we don't. Black people everywhere. Foreign. The food was bland. No ranches and hot sauces on the table. Just some ketchup and some malt vinegar. If you want a flavor, you had to do Indian or African cuisine or Middle Eastern or Mediterranean. The architecture was very old and classic. I loved it. It just made me feel like I was in a very romantic town. I just loved it. Stay tuned for the next trip. See you guys later. Hope I captured everything. If not, you heard most of the trip. And if you follow me on social medias, you kind of seen a little bit of it.